Está passando uns dias conosco o Alan Berkowitz.
Alan Berkowitz is spending a few days with us.
Ele nos acompanha com o coração há muitos anos.
He has been following us with the heart for many years.
E a distância, mesmo não estando aqui fisicamente,
And at distance, even if he is not here physically,
ele vem percebendo e sentindo as etapas do trabalho interno.
he has been perceiving and feeling the internal steps of the work.
Ele é um dos responsáveis pela edição em inglês da obra completa de Paul Brunton.
He is one of the responsible for the edition in English of the complete works of Paul Brunton.
É muito coligado com a editora da obra, que é uma fundação.
And he is very linked to the publishing company of the works, which is a foundation.
E como Paul Brunton para nós sempre foi uma luz e um farol,
And since Paul Brunton for us always is a light, a lighthouse,
pela energia que ele representa,
by the energy which he represents,
então acho que as palavras do Alan terão muito interesse para nós.
so I feel that the words Alan is going to say will have a lot of interest to us.
I feel very emotional trying to talk about my teacher and his teacher in front of you. So as many of you know, Paul Brunton was a very important writer of topics about spirituality for a Western audience. After a successful career as a journalist, he had this deep yearning to understand the truth, that he traveled extensively on 5 continents under very difficult conditions to speak to holy people and understand what they knew. Now, ironically, later in his life, he said that it was actually not necessary to go outside to find what is inside. But we are the beneficiaries of what he learned. So he used his skills as a journalist, and with a very strong energy of synthesis, to create an understanding of the truth in its completeness, which would be accessible to a person in the modern Western world. So in the 1930s and 40s and 50s he wrote 10 books, which were very popular and which were published in Portuguese and Spanish here. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, something that Paul Brunton didn't write about is that he also spent time in Mexico trying to understand and meet with holy people to incorporate the traditional wisdom of this continent. So if you read in the introduction to Perspectives, he experienced an inner change in which he was told not to write books anymore. So for 20 years, instead, he would receive an inspired thought and write it on a piece of paper, or on the margin of a newspaper, or I have even seen some written on the back of chocolate wrappers. And these inspired ideas were on a very great variety of topics, all the way from what is the spiritual path, how to transform the lower personality, meditation, how the ego can block the light, mysticism and religion, the role of the intellect and reason, healing, intuition, a relationship to a teacher, the nature of the higher personality, which he calls the Overself, the mind of God, and whatever is beyond the mind of God. So it is like an encyclopedia of spiritual thought. And after he wrote on little pieces of paper some students would type it up, and then he would assign a number to it, and then he would put all them of the same type in one book. So he did this for 20 or 30 years. He never thought of himself or spoke of himself as a teacher. He called himself a researcher. So you could tell that he had done a lot of research. When I was with him, if I would ask him a very difficult spiritual question, it seemed to me that to answer the question, he would go into himself and find what was actually real and then tell me.